A big thank you to my Patreon supporters Bella, Handsome Bana, Vanidia Fortes, and G83. The Iron Giant is so good. How come I barely see anybody talk about this movie? Seriously, it's gotta be, at least in my opinion, one of the most underappreciated animated films I've ever seen. And you look at the muscle behind this project, and it's like, how on earth do people not fawn over this movie more? The voice cast features some serious strength with Jennifer Aniston, Henry Connick Jr., Vin Diesel, Christopher McDonald, and the late great John Mahoney. The score was composed by Michael Kamen, who worked on stuff like Band of Brothers, which is arguably one of the best TV shows ever made, as well as The Wall, alongside the members of Pink Floyd. Oh, and did I mention that it was directed by freaking Steven Spielberg? And in my opinion, the biggest selling point, even more so than Spielberg directing, is that it was written by Brad Bird. You know, the guy who made The Incredibles and Ratatouille. God, how did this movie not make like $1 billion? Oh, because apparently Warner Brothers being Warner Brothers decided that this movie wasn't worth advertising at all, so they barely did, and no one knew it even existed. So, yeah, the movie flopped really hard back when it was released in 1999. It didn't even make its budget back in box office revenue, which is horrifically bad. So, if anything, the movie was relegated to cult classic status, which honestly is a real damn shame, because this movie is just so freaking good. And I'm gonna tell you exactly why. But first, I want to thank the sponsor for this video. Nobody. I don't have one. But if you subscribe, maybe one day Raid Shadow Legends will want to give me some money. So please, hit that subscribe button and share the video with your friends if you enjoyed. Alright, on to the video.
Meow, meow, meow. He has such a way with words. Meow.
A trend that I and many others have noticed with a lot of modern-day animated movies is the abundance of celebrity voice actors that more often than not are only being used, ironically enough, for marketing purposes. Which, honestly, the Iron Giant probably could have used. Oh, but wait, the Iron Giant also had an abundance of celebrity voice actors, and not just that, but ones who actually did a really good job. There isn't a single member of the main cast who feels out of place, or like they're phoning it in. Overall, I'd say the weakest performance is probably from Jennifer Aniston, and that really isn't saying a lot because she still does a great job, but I just can't help but think about Rachel from Friends every time she speaks, so maybe it's just a me problem. I think the most surprising performance in this respect actually belongs to Eli Mirenthal, who voices the protagonist Hogarth. At the time of the movie's production, he was only 12 years old. A lot of the time, young actors in general aren't really great, especially when standing alongside their far more seasoned co-stars, but that really isn't the case here.
Where are you going?
I'm going out!
Well, why don't you take Mr. Mansley with you? Show him the sights.
Oh, Mom, the sights!
Hey, I'd love that. Give us a chance to get acquainted. Swap some stories, huh, Chief?
There isn't a single line from Hogarth that isn't delivered in a convincing manner. Whether it's a serious or funny moment, Mirenthal nails it. The same goes for the rest of the cast too, who all bring their own style and humor to their respective characters, especially Henry Connick Jr. as Dean.
There are two kinds of metal in this yard, scrap and art. If you gotta eat one of them, eat the scrap. What you currently have in your mouth is art! Oh, forget it, forget it. It's gone. It's That's not bad.
And Christopher McDonald as Kent Mansley.
Guess that means something big's happening here, eh?
No, Marv. Big things happen in big places. Biggest thing in this town is probably the homecoming queen. Oh my God!
Vin Diesel does what he does best as animated characters and says very little in a deep voice. And yet, somehow, his lines still cut deep. You stay, I go, will never not touch my damaged, cynical little heart. I really wish that modern animated movies could look at the Iron Giant as an example for how to properly use celebrity voices, because lately it really feels like they're missing the mark, more so than usual. There is a great video by the YouTuber Dog Eat Dog covering this exact problem in great depth. I highly suggest you check it out after this video. I'll leave a link in the description.
Well, I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you. I make you laugh. I'm here to amuse you. What do you mean funny? Funny how? How am I funny?
Did I mention that this movie is really funny? Because it is really, really funny. Brad Bird has a really specific writing style, especially when it comes to humor. More often than not, his humor is based on the jokes being relatable, even if the story or situation is something entirely impossible. This is most prevalent in The Incredibles, but it's here a lot too. One of my favorite jokes from about halfway through the movie is when Hogarth is getting home crazy late from Dean's scrapyard and is finally getting to bed. While I highly doubt that anyone watching this has spent an entire night hiding a massive alien robot in a junkyard only to come home and be kept awake by their mom, I am almost positive that a lot of us have stayed up all night doing one thing or another, only then to be praised at like 5 a.m. by one of our parents for waking up so early. Even in the out-of-this-world context, it's relatable. Brad Bird also has a certain way of making the annoyance of characters really humorous, which again, you see a lot of in The Incredibles, but even more so here, which works really, really well with most characters' personalities. Outside of character and situational humor, the movie also has a variety of good visual humor too. Truth be told, I don't think that there are any jokes in this movie that I don't like. They all manage to get at least a chuckle out of me. What's more, there aren't any crass jokes at all in here, and if you know my channel by now, you know I really, really don't care for an abundance of crass jokes in any form of comedy. It's kind of hard to describe how the humor works so well because comedy is obviously subjective, so you'll just have to trust me on this one, I guess. But we aren't done yet. No. There is still so much more that makes this movie so bloody fantastic, which brings me to...
I don't know, SpongeBob. He might cramp our style.
The Iron Giant is so damn unique. Seriously, both in terms of its style and direction. The fact that the movie takes place in 1950s America gives its whole style such a distinct and cool vibe, much like Back to the Future actually. I could be biased towards it because Back to the Future is my favorite movie, but I've always loved the 1950s American aesthetic, so I really don't think that's the whole reason. The set pieces, character designs, and aesthetic as a whole is just so fitting and works around the story perfectly. The small, towny feeling is so well done, with everything feeling so authentic. This was a very tense time in American history, despite what shows like Leave It to Beaver may have wanted you to think. The 50s was the very beginning of the Cold War, so people's fears were through the roof. Secret government weapons and all kinds of strange rumors were the talk of the town back then. So it makes sense that when a lot of reports of strange activity start popping up, that the feds would send somebody, in this case, Kent Mansley. I think he's kind of the perfect representation of a paranoid, entitled government spook. He acts like he's tougher and smarter than everyone else when it's clear throughout the entire film that he's anything but. He's thwarted by Hogarth throughout, and overall he serves a simple but genuinely intimidating and memorable main antagonist. Let's not forget, he almost nukes the entire town. He stands in stark contrast to another one of the movie's best characters, Dean. If I could use any term for Dean, it would probably be that he's a cool cat. I don't know why I said that. No, but seriously, he just gives off like hardcore Thomas O'Malley vibes. You know what I mean? Does this look like the kind of guy who cares what people think? No, and that's what makes him so cool. Anyway, his cool factor aside, Dean is also such a good dude. And while yeah, he does yell now and then, he's probably the nicest character in the movie. He helps Hogarth throughout, and without him, the government would have found and taken the giant within the first half of the movie. He's not afraid to fight for what he thinks is right and to protect what he cares about. Oh, and he's also funny as hell.
Hey!
Yeah?
You're right in the middle of the road!
Yeah?
People take one look at me and go, "Ah, help, run! A big, stupid, ugly ogre." They judge me before they even know me.
Humor, style, and performances aside, there is one part of this movie I would be remiss not to mention, and that's its message. Through and through, The Iron Giant is about finding who you really are, and not being what everyone else assumes you are. Getting past people's preconceived notions of you, and being what you want to be. In a lot of ways, it's like the message behind the Shrek movies before Shrek was even out. We see throughout the entire movie that the giant has emotions, feels love, and wants to be accepted by the people around him. In his moments where the programming takes over, his regret and shame is immediately apparent. He even ends up fleeing when he realizes he may not be able to control himself and end up killing Hogarth. Soon after, when the giant thinks that Hogarth is dead, he fully gives in, not knowing what else to do. He reverts to his old ways. Also, the giant's grief in this scene is so touching. It's actually amazing how much emotion he's able to convey. And good God, is his combat mode ever terrifying. Props to the designers because they somehow managed to make the giant adorable and terrifying at the exact same time. In the end, it's the faith that Hogarth puts in the giant that reminds him that, well...
And you don't have to be a gun. You are what you choose to be. You choose. Choose.
Even after all the hatred toward him, from the town, the military, and the rest, he gives his life to save everyone. Because he's not a gun. Because he's not a monster. He's Superman. Watching through the film as the giant learns to love, bonds with Hogarth and Dean, and in the end saves the entire town is just so touching. I seriously cry every time he collides with that missile because the movie does such an amazing job of making you love him. Seeing the statue of him in the end to commemorate his sacrifice is just so wonderful. And after it all, we can't forget its amazing ending. That final smile. So good. In recent years, the reputation and overall public knowledge of the Iron Giant has been on the up and up, which I am really grateful for. It seems Warner Brothers is well aware of this too. I mean, just look at the first trailer for Ready Player One. The Giant is featured front and center, and there is no way that Warner didn't know how many people that they would get into theater seats with that alone. Seeing him was like one of the main reasons I went to go see the movie, and he's probably one of the only good parts of it. And he's actually seen again in the recent Space Jam movie as well. I'm assuming that's because Warner doesn't want to, waste these assets, but, seriously, it's still good. The more Iron Giant, the happier the sirsurgenor, you know? I really hope that we can see more from this franchise again in the future, as it deserved so much more praise and attention than it got. It has so much passion, creativity, love, and humor that I still can't believe it did so poorly. Maybe in another world it got the love it deserved, and hopefully someday it'll get the love it deserves here. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm super sorry for how long it's been since I've uploaded. University's just been keeping me, let's just say, a little busy. This also definitely wasn't the style of my normal videos. This was a lot more energetic and humorous, so I hope you guys liked that new take. I enjoyed doing it and writing it, so let me know if you want more like that. All that said, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe, as it really does help me out a whole lot. Have a good day, guys. Peace.